What up? It's your boy Dick Incredible, and I just seen One Punch Man Season 2, Episode 12, man, and oh my gosh. It was absolutely fantastic. Now, before I talk about the episode, I've been hearing a lot of heat, man, that a lot of people just wasn't pleased with this season at all, man. They just didn't like it. There was nothing that they enjoyed about this season at all. For some reason, they want to compare it to the very first season, and you can't compare it to the first season because the first season was done by a completely different studio, and this one was done by JC Staff. And granted, JC Staff does great work on some of their other anime, and at the beginning of the season, yes, some episodes were a little hit or miss. But as it progressed, it got a little better, and this episode was actually one of the better episodes in my opinion. The only moment that I really didn't like was you could tell that some moments they cut out, like, you know, they just left the sound effects in for the punching and just showed other stuff. I don't know, maybe budget wise, or they just didn't have enough going on, but you could tell that happened throughout some of the episode. But overall, this episode was actually great, man, and the latter half of this season was on point. It done justice to One Punch Man to me. Yeah, it wasn't as good animation wise as the very first season, but you can't compare this season to that season because they're done by completely different studios, man. You can't compare. That's like if you ate an orange and then you ate an apple and be like, the orange doesn't taste as good as the apple. It's a different fruit, so it's not going to taste the same. But let's talk about this episode, man. Okay, as you can see in the thumbnail, that I screenshotted one of the coolest scenes from this episode, man, and it was with Garo fighting Silverfang and his brother, man, and that fight was fantastic. Now, it could have been better. It wholeheartedly could have been better. Could have been 10 times better, but it was good for what we got because, you know, it was more so. It was like it was really out of focus and on most of the fight. But the moments where it was him and Bang up close, they was pretty clear. But it was a lot of out of focus, like when Silverfang and his brother was fighting together against Garo. It got a little out of focus, but it had some cool scenes in those particular moments. But that fight, oh, it was so good. It was so good. But we also understand Garo now. We got a clear picture at Garo. I'm gonna try to talk, you know, not do any kind of manga spoiler since you know, it's ending this season. You know, we got maybe I don't want to spoil anything for non-manga readers, but yeah, man, we get that happening, and we get a little more backstory for Garo. We get the whole story to how he kind of perceives everything now because of what happened to him when he was a kid. And let's be real, the kid that was attacking him when he was little, I would be so happy if they just done like a side episode to where he went and attacked these people as they were older, man. That I would love that because they didn't have that to do, man, and they just attacked him for no reason, honestly. But the fight between him, Silverfang, and Silverfang's brother, you wanted Garo to win, and you wanted Silverfang to kind of win, but you just didn't want the fight to end. The fight was so fantastic. It was so good. You didn't want the fight to end at all, man. I enjoyed every moment of that fight. But now, after that and the whole Garo little miniature side arc story part, which was very great. I loved that. I loved everything about this episode. There wasn't a bad moment in this episode to me. Now, others may complain about certain parts of the animation, which, yes, it was a little lackey in the beginning, but the latter half of the episode, it picked up tremendously, in my opinion. But, you know, everybody's going to have their own take on it. But then we get to the point to where the Centihero or Centurio, whatever, popped up. And that's when the whole episode flipped up on its head, man. And we got to see some fantastic stuff. We got to see Silverfang and his brother just demolished Hero or Shichiro or whatever, and dude just like regenerated and fixed itself like it was nothing, man. Then Genos went ham and demolished dude and everything, but yet again he fixed himself. But now the moment, and that whole fight scene where that happened was absolutely glorious too, and I loved it. Even when Genos was inside his body, that was showed very well, man. A lot of people will complain about this season, but I just, yeah, it wasn't as great as the first season, but like animation quality wise, but the story was there to me, but you can't compare because they're two different animation studios, man. But that whole fight scene, and then when we get to it was absolutely great. But then we get to the moment that everyone was waiting for when Saitama finally showed up. But before we get into Saitama, let's talk about the fact that King, he stood his ground. You could tell he was still a little scared. You saw his fist shaking when it was clenched, but he stood his ground and was like, I'm gonna stand here, and yeah. But then when he was like, Saitama, come on, and Saitama showed up, and at that moment we knew what was gonna happen. One punch, and boy was it glorious, man. A lot of I don't understand what people don't like. I enjoyed this season. Yes, it wasn't as great as the first season animation wise, but story wise it was very compelling to me, and I guess only because I read it in the manga as well, so I know how everything's going. But overall it was fine to me. The animation, you can't compare animation from a different studio to another studio and try to, it's going to be different. We knew that going in. It was like when we got the teaser trailer, we knew it was going to be different because a different studio picked it up. But that's just me rambling, man. But this episode was absolutely glorious. I loved every moment of it. The little side story we got with Garo about his past and how he became who he was. The fight between him and Silverfang's brother. The fight between Hero and Genos and Silverfang and his brother and Saitama and King. Everything about this whole episode was just absolutely fantastic, and it rolled it up to a neat little box and wrapped it and handed it out to everybody else, man. But that's my take on this episode. So comment down below and let me know what do you guys think about this episode. And I just have to know, man, because I know a lot of people, they just wasn't feeling this season of One Punch Man. But let me know. This is your boy, Dick Incredible Man. Don't forget to smash that like button till you can't smash it anymore. Comment down below and I'll be sure to respond to each and every one of them. And subscribe, but only if you really want to, man. And remember that anime matters, anime is greatness, and anime is life. One Punch!